up, y'all? I am here with my good friend, my advisor, my accountability partner,
Let's go.
Jeremiah Brown. We are in New York City right now.
Yes.
We've got
welcome.
I'm in his city right now. But yes, y'all know I'm Morgan Jones, and I help athletes transition out of sports emotionally and professionally. And today we're just gonna chat it up. All right, we're just gonna chat it up. We know we have a lot of athletes that follow us, a lot of leaders in school systems and over organizations that also are tuned in to our content and our work and what we do. So let's just start from the beginning, right? Yeah. So you're NFL, one of the best football players in the country. Boom, it stops.
Yeah.
Like most athletes, where you got to go through that. What is my transition out of sports like? So share with us about what your transition was like.
I think the hardest part of the transition was knowing that I went to college, I got a degree for free, but I got a degree in something that I didn't plan on using. So now I have, I signed $1 million contract. I didn't make millions of dollars simply because it was a multi-year deal. So over the course of 3 years, I would have made $1.4 million. But before I could even make it through my rookie season, I caught a career-ending concussion. So now I have some money, not forever. I had a degree. So at this point in my life, I pretty much did everything people told me I couldn't. Yeah. But also, I did everything that I aspired to do at that point in my life. So now it was just like, okay, now who am I? What do I want to do? And I never took time to deal with those questions, until it was too late. So now I'm lost. I'm depressed, anxious, suicidal. I mean, every emotion under the sun, I was trying to navigate it. Mm-hmm. And at that time, my ego wouldn't let me do it with people, so I was trying to do it alone.
Yeah.
It was tough.
I can relate to that so much of, the question around the identity.
Yep.
And, oftentimes when you're in it, you're like, especially when we were playing, right, 2012, 15, is identity wasn't really a big topic at the time.
Not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
And when you're doing something so much and you put so much time and energy in it, it quickly can just shape you into exactly that one thing. And you take it with you everywhere you go. And absolutely. Those questions, I wish I also would have asked myself, a lot earlier. But what do you think? For me, when I went through it, I was excited at first on my side because I went to ACC school, played basketball, and played my 3 years there. And I'll say when I finished playing it. Or no, I shouldn't say I finished playing. I still have a year of eligibility that I left on the plate, NCAA eligibility. Because when I was in school, the story that I was telling myself was that this isn't what they said they would do. Mm. Y'all said I would be the cornerstone player.
Wow.
I could have went anywhere in the country. And y'all got me on this bench while we're playing on ESPN right now.
Wow.
I had a lot of poor narratives that I was telling myself that weren't coming from the heart of gratitude.
Sure.
And so that led me to making an impulsive decision of saying, look, y'all not going to play me? This is how this is going to roll? Cool, I got my degree anyway. I'm out.
Wow.
And so at that point, I was like, do I go back to college or do I pursue this thing that everyone has told you to pursue, which is professional sports? Sure. You're going to be a pro one day. You know that narrative. They know. Somebody's watching this right now knows you aspire to be at the top of whatever it is you're pouring into. And I had went out initially to Oregon for a visit.
Okay.
And I was like, let me just totally switch it up. Let me go East Coast to West Coast on them, just totally just switch it up. And, I went out to Oregon and I was on my visit at Oregon and had all the bells and whistles, as you can imagine,
That's Nike HQ.
Right. Multi-million-dollar
right.
facilities,
right.
Top of the top. But I can remember we were playing pickup on my visit. And, you got all new girls there, all new coaching staff, right? And all the things that they were telling me started to kind of sound the same.
Wow.
It was like, you can be this player, you can get this type of degree, we'll set you up like this. And so I was hearing some of these very similar narratives, and
Sure.
it was like halftime of the scrimmage that we were doing, and I went to the bathroom. And I'll never forget, I was like in the bathroom just crying.
Wow.
Just in complete like exhaustion and complete confusion.
Sure.
Of just like, again, same thing. Will they fill that expectation? Will they be the people that they say they are?
Right.
And so ultimately, I ended up not going to Oregon, and I went and pursued pro. So when I went to play pro, after I finished playing there, I transitioned out and I like to say, I know yours is like, I went $1.6 million to working at Home Depot,
wow.
right? Mine is like, I was flying, private jet, staying at Ritz-Carlton's with Chick-fil-A on the plane with a seat with the Chick-fil-A sauce, you better not forget it, to sleeping at home, mom and dad's couch, driving Uber on New Year's Eve to make ends meet, right? Like, it's really drastic. So kind of like, what coping mechanisms did you use, like, to go, okay, I'm at the bottom? How did you pull yourself out?
Village. I'm really, really big on not, from that experience of having a hard time moving my ego aside and wanting to try to figure this out on my own so that no one would judge me and say that I was the statistic or all of these things. I learned the hard way that a seed cannot grow in sand, meaning like you cannot grow in isolation. So for me, I became very, very intentional on like mentorship. Like, I need a mentor. I need to be around some people who have either gone through what, I've went through. But being in a city as big as New York City, oddly enough, there aren't many former professional football players coming out of New York City. But there was this one guy, his name is Deval Ellis. He's all over social media now. He's from Brooklyn. We have a very, very similar story in terms of like going to a small high school in Brooklyn, being born and raised in Brooklyn, going to the NFL, undrafted, to getting injured, and now you're lost. So he's maybe 6-7 years older than me. However, I was able to lean on his experience of how he navigated it. And, it was one of those things where being in close proximity of him and other individuals who were like, they didn't settle for like, this is what life is giving me. So they were a group of people who really helped me understand, like, Jay, there's something inside of you that we're going to pull out of you. And if you don't, iron sharpens iron, right? Like, you and I's relationship, right? Like, we're in a similar space and we equally want to see each other win and thrive. And you make me better. It's the same thing. It's just 12 years later. You know what I mean? So I'm just really, really big on like not growing in isolation. And that's the biggest coping mechanism that I utilize. You know what I mean? Is if I'm deficient in something, I need to get around people who are sufficient in the areas that I'm deficient in, right? So, as it pertains to confidence, as it pertains to competence and understanding the skill set that you need for said thing that you want. And once I understood there's a process to everything, it allowed me to just understand that this isn't really defeating me, it's developing me, and that perspective shift is what really started to push my performance to, the levels at which it is now, as a speaker, presenter, educator and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I've been able to, utilize. And, when I'm presenting, I'm always planting those seeds. If an educator's like, hey, Jeremiah, like, we want you to come in and we want you to do this. I'm like, well, in order for your students to change their thought process, they first have to change who they're moving with. And by changing who they're moving with is going to be a part of their changing, right? So like me, if we're always together, you won't allow me to come to you and say, Morgan, I can't do this. Like, I can't get in front of that crowd and do this. Like, what do you mean? Like, you've been speaking all over. Like, what are you talking about here?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's just like that iron sharpening iron. So, for me, that I would say, in a very long-winded way, that is, the coping mechanisms that I've used. That really helped me.
The village, community, connection.
It takes it. It takes
iron
a village.
Sharpens iron. Like, and what I hear you saying too is just be careful of what you make your norm. You just got to be really, really, really intentional about that, because it can slip in so easy. And I mean, that's in many different areas. That's in what you eat. You know what I mean? Absolutely. The way that you sleep, the way that you work, your work habits, all of that. Just like what norms are you creating? Because we're always creating them through our habits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
100%.
I've always been. I will say, like, that's one thing that probably one of the better attributes that I have, because when I was in that season, I was leaning, I was looking, like, who has something that I want, whether it's tangible or it's a spirit they have, where I'm like, something about the way they're moving, I just want to know more. My curiosity has always led me down the right path. And I should say always, like, I ain't always got it right. There's been some right and left turns on that curiosity.
Sure. Always.
You know what I'm saying? That's part of the journey. But it's that curiosity that, I encourage athletes is like, let's get curious. Like you said, we're asking ourselves these hard questions of, who am I? Like, like why is my identity just in basketball? You know what I mean? Like, how did I grow up? How is that making an impact on why I feel limited? Where are these beliefs coming from? Like, just really being curious with oneself so you can develop the self-awareness that you need to kind of walk out what's that next path, or find the courage to step out on something new that you might not know, because really you're back to training wheels in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
You got all the pieces, they all there, just got to figure out how to put them all together to then get in a space where you're walking that out. So we're fortunate to be able to turn like the mess into a message, which now has led to a platform, which now this is our profession, right?
Absolutely.
And I work with a lot of different student athletes, or I'll have, young women, right, or women come and be like, how'd you get started, right? How did you get here where I'm sitting down listening to you empower me and my vision, my goals, my life, so like, let's kind of let's share a little game. This is an exclusive, all right? This is an exclusive, okay? Because we're not going to just talk about all like, it's just glory and glitz, right? Like, what it really takes to become a platform speaker.
Absolutely. This is I don't even know where to start, but I'll say this. Yesterday I presented, and during my presentation, after my presentation, there was a young lady who's a recent grad, and she's doing some really, really incredible work. She works for a really, really big organization as it pertains to sports, and I won't name any names, but she was just expressing how she sometimes struggles with like her voice being heard, and them valuing her youth and her, lack thereof experience per se. And she's like, well, how do you navigate that? How do you, and I said, I'm going to be honest with you. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been told to trust the process? And she goes, yes, I've been told that. So do you know what it means? Like, I guess, like you have to trust the process. And I was just like, well, it's a little bit more than that. And hopefully what I'm about to say will answer your question as it pertains to like, how did we get here? 12 years later, from depression, suicidal ideation, severe anxiety, being at Home Depot, from playing in front of hundreds of thousands of fans, signing them in. Like, how does that happen? It happens because there was a process between where I was 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and where I am now. I've dreamt of where I am now. It's something that I had on the vision board. It's something that I had on, in my notes. But there was this one person that said something to me, and he says, Jeremiah, and I told this to the young lady, I said, trusting the process means this. what it is that you aspire to have, you are not that person yet. And where you are and where you want to be, there's a process that you must follow. And what you're dealing with right now is a part of that process. Because you said you wanted to be a CEO of this organization one day. But if you were given the title of CEO, you might have the IQ of a CEO, but you may not have the soft skills or even the competence of a CEO in terms of character development. So right now, you're understanding as a recent grad how to deal with people, how to navigate adversity and opposition. Like, that's a part of your process. You are currently in a process of acquiring skills you've never had before. So I say that to say that my process from there to here now, and of course, I haven't arrived. There's still more growth to be had and more, levels to unlock, as they would say. But when I went from playing in the NFL, being forced to retire due to injury, to being an aisle 16 of Home Depot. Now, I was only in Home Depot for like a week and a half, but the process of putting on an orange apron and not a jersey, the process of checking into a job paying less than, minimum wage, right? People asking me like, what happened? Like, how did this, all of those traumatic things, I then found myself in front of students in a classroom. And it wasn't until I started my career in education where I found purpose it was the first time I found purpose in something outside of my sport, right? So now these students who look like me, who are telling me I'm their hero, who are telling me that they want to do some of the things that, I've done, I took that as a responsibility of, man, I'm going to take ownership of this, of making sure that no one has to deal with the transition or has to deal with sports the way I had to deal with it. So it was being in education for almost 11 years where I had developed the soft skills. I had developed the hard skills. I had to navigate the nuances of character development and just being able to speak up and develop the self-efficacy to properly communicate things. I had to go through that process to be the speaker that I am today, to be the leader that I am today, to have the confidence to look in the mirror and know, like, today is only going to be a bad day if you decide for it to be a bad day. And, it's just understanding that even where I am right now, there are levels that I want to bring my company to. There are levels and stages that I want to one day speak on. I can't say I want to make $50,000 for a speaking engagement if I don't have the character to manage what I currently have and what I'm currently doing. And who's to say I don't have the character? I just understand that in order for me to become a 50K or 100K speaker, there are certain things that I need to develop, and it might not even be speaking. It might be negotiating. A skill that most times people always ask me, like how do you become, well, in your case, like a McDonald's All-American? How do you go to an ACC school, Power 5 school? How do you get an opportunity to play professional? How do you sign an NFL contract? I tell them it was more of the off the court stuff than it was the on the court stuff or field stuff, right? Like, it was those intangibles of relationship building and, leading a locker room and doing the right thing in the classroom and all of those things that people don't subscribe to. They just subscribe to what they might see on social media or the end result of something. So for me, it's so much that has gone into just me being in the spaces that I am and just humbly knowing, like, this is great, but this ain't it. Like, there's more levels to unlock. And when we unlock them, we give gratitude, but we get back to work. You know what I mean? And for me, that's just my mentality, where it's just like, man, like, you're doing some great things now. It's like, oh, man, absolutely. But what I know what's for me is much bigger than what I'm currently doing. Oh, you trying to Not at all. Not at all. I just know I want more, and I want to impact more, and that's going to require more work. So, and more development, So, yeah, it's just the development process is what I had to, and I think that's one quality that the elite of the elite in any industry, like we share that. We share the ability to love the process of being great as opposed to, like, I had a kid come up to me after my presentation today at a school, and he's like, "Oh man, heard you got money. You played in the league." I was like, "Oh, appreciate that." He's like, "Can I have some?" I was like, "So you're telling me you got your hand out for the money that you didn't earn?" So then, of course, this teacher in me, I'm like, "Oh man, I got to teach this kid in this moment." So I had to, like,
this is a teaching moment.
Right. So I was like, "Pull up a seat and let's talk. What is it that you want to do?" He's like, "I want to play in the NFL." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Also, like, "Who are you?" "I'm a football player." It's like, "All right, you got time? Can I get you for this period?" Because we need to really talk. Like, if that's what you really want to do, there are things you're not even focused on right now. Like, you don't come to someone asking for money. You say, "Hey, how can I earn some money? How can I go get it?" That's what you want to commit to, is that dog of, I'm going to go get it. And, that's just something that we all have in common, and so I'll kick it back to you. Like, what would you say for you has positioned you to, like, be in this space that you're in now, and doing it? And I'll take it a step further and ask, like, what positioned you to do it with the confidence and clarity that you have? You know what I mean? And, maybe even talk about, like, some of the, like, each level, there's a new level of clarity and confidence that you need to unlock, you know? So, I'll kick it to you on that.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Clarity and confidence, of what's being unlocked as now standing where I'm standing. So when I transitioned out of sports, had a lot of those similar anxiety, depression, just completely lost, was turning to alcohol and drugs and anything that I could numb the feeling of, I'm no longer playing the game. I don't know who I am. I don't know the direction that I want to go. Everyone only knows me as a basketball star, so everywhere I go,
it's huge.
Everyone's like, "What you doing now?" And I never had the answer.
Right.
So there was a lot of things that I was running from.
That's a tough one.
And when I found out that I was pregnant, about a year after transitioning out of sports with my son, that is when the switch turned on. And when I say a switch, I don't mean like, oh, all of a sudden I knew everything. But when you talked about, like, turning that, oh, we gonna act like we lost, to, you better figure it out.
Yeah.
You better tap into that dog in you and be like, I'm bringing life into this world. How will I lead this life? And that set me down a really deep reflection with really going back to the foundation. Who am I in Christ?
Yeah.
I had to go back to my foundation and my faith.
Yeah. That's good.
Learned and I would be watching sermons after sermons after sermons, just like digesting so much and letting the Spirit really work through me.
Sure.
And I started to experience the Spirit work through me by changing my desires, changing my focus.
Wow, desire was good.
And changing my clarity. Wow. And so, in trusting that, I put together this big, bold vision of who I wanted to become. I got all these magazines and, all these markers and scissors and glue sticks. I had nothing to do. I was waiting for my baby to get there. And I just started saying, like, man, like, who is it that you want to become? And I didn't put up there Lamborghinis. I didn't put up there no mansion. I didn't put up no foo-foo relationship that I wanted to look like relationship goals.
Right.
I put quality friendship pictures up there.
Yeah.
I put a woman on a stage speaking to an entire room of 200 Muslim women, thinking international speaker. I put quotes up there of how I just want to live authentic and share the message of, what is your vision for your life? Who are you beyond what you do? And so when I created, I started with that big vision board, and then started taking the steps and started breaking it down into small steps and small steps of service.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times
people, I hope they pick that one up. I hope y'all pick that up. Like,
small steps of service, because sometimes I think we can get so caught up in it needs to become a dollar for me now. It needs to be making money, it needs to pay my bills. And like, when you're talking about pivoting to your purpose, the root of that is service. So you got to be willing to do it with no money. And then that's when you really start to carve out your own path, where people are finding you. They're coming to you saying, let me pay you. So I started to reach out to local schools, say, hey, can I come talk to your young women? Go in there, grab my sister. I say, hey, Tay, come on. Can you come and video me in the back? She's like, I got you. So, she out in the back with a little iPhone, And so I started speaking there. And then Matt was there, our videographer. It's on the other side of his camera. He came where I said, hey, come on, can you come to me do this workshop? He's like, I got you. So, and I just started serving. And then that's when, through those steps of service, things started to become more clear of, okay, this is how this can be monetized, right? This is how now I could turn this into a profession by creating, presentations, programs, products around this concept of what's your vision for your life? Who are you beyond what you do? Can you design your destiny, right? What are your habits? Because that's something that has always anchored me. Is my mom instilled it to me early on. It's like speaking over yourself. If anybody that meets my mom and my dad, like, there's about this much space they got for negativity before they're like, all right, but you're alive, right? You got 2 feet, your heart's still beating, let's go. So I think that's a big part. But I know you mentioned vision board.
Yeah.
So what was Jeremiah's like first vision board?
Happy family. For me, like, what drives me is, I have a desire. You use the word desire, which I love. I'm like, as a communicator, I'm becoming a big fan of language and words, which is like new for me, new obsession. But my desire, in this world is to create generational wealth within my home. Not necessarily from a monetary standpoint, but, like, mom and dad get along. Mom and dad like each other, love each other. They may not see eye to eye, but, like, they're committed to figuring it out. Spending time with my children, building relationships with them, the long pouring into what their gifts and skills are. Like, to me, that was on the vision board. So I was very fortunate enough that my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we saw 2009, 2004, so about 50, we're going on 15 years of being together, 7 years married. She's been a part of the whole process from like college to now. So, it was like, okay, we're going to have kids one day. We're going to live together one day. Like, I can't say that, like, I built my life around her. She built her life around me. It was more so, like, on my vision board, it was like, whatever I'm doing in this world, I need to make sure that it doesn't pull me away from my family. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I never got into coaching. As former pro athletes like you and I, elite athletes at what we did in our sport, the easiest transition for an elite athlete is one or two things. A personal trainer, no shade to personal trainers, so great profession, those who are doing it, right, shout out to you, or a coach. And I just knew, and this is no shade to anyone who is a personal trainer or a coach, again, it's a great profession, but I just knew that I could offer the world more than being a personal trainer and a coach, simply because I knew that coaching would pull me into California for 3 months or 3 years. And then coach gets fired, and then now we're in Nebraska or now we're in Colorado. And that just wasn't a lifestyle that I wanted to live. So I started personal training. We started a personal training business, and over the years that evolved into, this holistic leadership model that we've developed. But, I knew that I could do more and provide more. So there was like this family crest at the top. And then there were, I didn't know that I really wanted to be a speaker and presenter, to be honest with you. I just always was a speaker and presenter. And wherever my feet were, in high school, I was the kid that got everybody excited for games. In college, I was the kid during halftime, pre-game, getting everybody pumped up. I was in public speaking class, and I was the only one who wasn't scared to present. I thought it was interesting. It was all of these signs around me, being a school leader in education. All of these things are happening that it was like, all right, we about to do this, and it was a profession where I didn't see it as something that would pull me from my family. Now that I'm in the heat of it, and traveling all over the country, I am 100% intentional on that, going back to that vision board and saying, okay, you're being pulled all over the country. However, your family is the most important thing. So for me, it always circles back to family for me. Like, that's my driving force. That's why I left my career in education, so that I could be more accessible to my family. But because of how I approach things and wanting to be the best at what I do, I'm now attracting what I've worked hard for. So the biggest shift has been going from chasing after something to attracting it. And that was from just me shifting my perspective and always going back to that vision board. Vision is what leads to clarity, and clarity to me is a superpower that most people don't have. But it's a superpower that can be learned.
These days I feel like it's learned through elimination. It's learned through the word no, so you can make room for the right yeses.
Failure,
Yep.
Losses, all of those things contribute to, that's why for me, I love the process so much. Like, even when I tell people this about the sport of football, like, I love football, but I love the process of becoming an elite football player more than the actual game of football. I love the grind. I love all the parts of the process of it. And that's the one thing that did transfer over into what I'm doing. Had a lot of transferable skills. Or we're told we have a lot of transferable skills in our sport, but oftentimes there aren't. When we were in school, there weren't people doing what we do, teaching people how to utilize the transferable skills. Oh, Jeremiah, you're an elite athlete, you're a scholarship Division I athlete, you're going to have time management transferable skills, you're going to have hard-working transferable skills. It's like, I'll be honest with you, my time management sucks. And it sucks because as an athlete, you deprive us of the ability to create our own schedule because we're told what to do and where to be. So now as an adult, I have to, all of these things. So that's what really fuels why I do what I do, from, a career and life skill standpoint.
It's like, without vision, the people perish.
Oh, big time.
That's organizations, that's teams, that's our families, right? Like, without vision, the people perish. And I like to say, like, a lot of the times with the organizations that I work with, the teams that I work with, like, anytime there's like some form of discontent or dissatisfaction, it's ultimately because there's no vision.
Big time.
And you like go back to the leader or whoever, whether it's the captain or the coach or whoever it may be, and be like, when's the last time you shared the vision? When's the last time you took an action, showed them the vision through live action?
Absolutely.
And
that's big.
It's huge, and going back to your point of the transferable skills of like, the hard work and loving the process and having to commit to the process in order to get to the goal. you know, when I look back on my Morgan Jones as a basketball player, there's a common thread and theme in which throughout the whole process of I shot up and became a 6-foot guard as a freshman who could shoot deep, like NBA 3, could handle the ball, and was a great passer. So I always had really great court vision. I could spread the defense, took the ball off the rim, down the court. And if you ask any of my coaches, that's what they would say. Like, what was Jones's greatest skill? She always had vision. She always knew where the pass before the pass. She knew where the ball and everyone was supposed to go. So I like to tell athletes or anyone that's trying to unpack their story or trying to unpack, like, what could be my purpose? Like, how did you land on really embodying what you're talking about? You're not just reading slides. Like, you can feel your heart in what you're saying.
That's good.
I'm like, let's take a trip back a little bit and let's see if we can find some themes and some patterns, you know, throughout your life and when things were hard or things that you're good at, right? And it's kind of leading you. You're being led towards your purpose, and you're being led towards your unique contribution to other people's lives. If you're mindful, if we want to go back and really live a life of fulfillment, meaning, purpose, contribution.
Absolutely.
So as you know, I'm like, man, our visions today is tomorrow's reality.
So what would you say 2024, what's your vision now? Like, for your life,
Yeah.
You know, like, what's a part of that vision? If we are painting the canvas of your vision board, you know, utilizing a tool such as a great one as the vision box, what does that look like? How do we utilize this to say, this is my vision for my life now?
Yeah.
Where do we go?
Where do we go?
Or where are we going?
Where are we going, right? And I think that the first question is asking yourself that question. Like, if you have that tension of, I feel off track, I feel like I don't really have direction. I'm waking up and I'm saying yes to everything and nothing feels like it's progressing. Or I can't see past tomorrow because I'm in complete survival mode. That is when it's time to slow down and say, where am I going? You know, because a lot of people, everyone has a form of direction. They're going good, bad, or indifferent.
For sure.
You going some way.
It's a fact.
Right?
It's a fact.
But more people need the directions.
Yep.
Which turns do I take? How do I go here? How can I map out this? What's the steps to get there, right? They need those directions. So the vision box provides a framework to start to say, okay, I got this direction. Let me frame out this direction. Now, let me make sure I get these directions on how to get to this direction that's really desired for myself. And so that's really why I created it. Was I found that one, I needed it. I needed a vision when I put the ball down. I needed it bad. I needed someone to grab me by the hand and say, look, here's how we're going to do this. You're stepping into a new chapter. It's going to be hard. What's your vision? You're not probably living it right now, like you had said earlier. Like, you know, you're not supposed to be it right now. Get bigger, bolder, louder. Let's go. And once you start to push that out, it's now creating the steps, the framework, the habits, the affirmations, the actions to back that up.
Absolutely.
So big vision is obviously to being able to get the vision box in as many people's lives that need it. You know, vision is not unique to a girl, a boy, a corporate leader. Not everyone needs vision. And so being able to spread that far and wide. And then in this profession, as we're talking about, the profession of being a speaker is, like you mentioned, balance. Same thing for me as being a mother and a single mother, saying, okay, I'm on the road. How do I not, you know, push aside this and try to separate this so much to the point where my son is not reaping any benefits of my pursuit of my purpose. You know, at the same time, he don't really care about mommy the speaker, right? He don't care about the Morgan Jones. He just wants mommy, right? And so that's been something I'm just working on, like, every day, with just when I have him, it's being present, really always seeking to learn more about my son so I can lead him more well. and becoming the best mom I can be.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that's but one thing you said, you've always been a good speaker and presenter. Every one of your videos.
No, I haven't. No,
I'm sorry. You said you always
been a Yeah, I've always been the person speaking. The person. Yeah. It was all at one point. I'll be honest with you. It was all rah. Like that was like.
Yeah.
I thought there was only one gear.
Yeah.
And that was just rah motivation. And when I became an educator, again goes to the process. When I learned that everyone doesn't learn from rah. Everyone doesn't learn from like when I took the time as an educator to learn the different learning styles, right?
Yeah.
Kinesthetic, visual, and I learned my own. I said, hey, like this doesn't feel fulfilling anymore because you're not even speaking to yourself, right? I'm a visual learner. Like you could tell me about a great product is this, but the moment I saw this and it arrived at my home and I'm opening it, I was like, yo, this is incredible. Because I could see it, I could feel it. I was like, this is impressive. Like the sleeve and it's like, this is well thought out. But when you were telling me about it, it was like, oh, that sounds incredible. So, I say that to say that like now, I've been speaking for a little over 10 years now. I tell people, ever since I signed the NFL contract, I've been speaking because I've been asked to come speak here, as the former NFL athlete or current NFL athlete. So it wasn't until 2019, 2020, we received a $30,000, we won a $30,000 grant from the New York Knicks in Squarespace. And it was with that grant that I joined a speakers community. And after joining the speakers community was when I fully understand, like, yo, I've been doing this and I've just been going off the whim. Like, just no structure or nothing. Yeah. And I'm doing okay. Yeah. But, like, you made how much speaking? And when I finally understood that there's an actual business behind this, it was when everything kind of just like really took off, and I didn't mean to cut you off. You might have forgot the question.
No, what I was gonna say is that, each time I come across your content on social media, on YouTube or on LinkedIn, whether it's through your words or through your video or testimonials, the same word always comes to mind, which is like powerful.
Oh wow.
It's just powerful.
Thank you.
And the way,
I appreciate that.
The tonality and the pace of your words and the clarity of what you're saying, and you can almost feel the energy through the video of like how confident you are in what you're saying, and that it's coming from a place really deep within that has even people that are watching the video leaning over like, I want more.
Appreciate that.
And so what's curious is was that through just multiple reps? Is that watching game film back like we did as athletes, like watching yourself speak and be like, I just said like 15 times.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It's so crazy because when I go into performance mode, the ums go away. I mean, there are some fillers like right, and there are some fillers that people tell me about that are speakers, but it's in the moments where I'm like recording a voice note or I'm doing something like, just us casually talking like right now, where it's like, you ever like recorded a voice, this is a sidebar, you ever recorded a voice note and you listened to it before you sent it and you said or like 1,000 times, but it was a good voice note, but it's like, nah, I can't send this. So like that's me a lot. So for me, it really went back to, I had to stop scoreboard watching. I had to stop comparing me to other speakers, but I had to grow through that, and that was a part of my process. I truly believe that I am where I am as a speaker and presenter, and many may say in an elite spaces or elite ability to communicate, etc., which I receive and appreciate, but I know it's because I healed. I did the work. And the work is, when I really see you, Morgan, and we might be in a similar space and lane, and resumes could, but like I really want you to win. Like I want you to feel that way whenever we're interacting, where it's like dang, Jeremiah didn't have to give me all that game, but he did anyways, right? Like, and there was a time that dog in me that like that, man, I can't get more than this game. I can't tell her all of my, because then she's gonna, and I had to outgrow that mentality, because one of my mentors, shout out to Dr. Alex Ellis, one day he was like, Jay, no matter how good you might be or how good I might be, there are millions of students and key people in this world. You'll never be able to speak to the heart of every single person in this world, let alone New York City, and I'm in New Jersey, right? So, like, for you to sit here and think that the gift God has blessed you with is gonna get in the way of my gift that God's blessed me with, oh, you're mistaken. Vice versa. So it wasn't until I had to outgrow and say, like, man, I don't want to be Inky Johnson. I want to understand Inky Johnson's process. I want to understand, like, what pain he had to go through, to navigate. Like, did he struggle with confidence? Did he struggle with some of the things that I'm struggling with? And if so, like, I want to get in close proximity to understand how he navigated that. Now, I understand, though, his process is different than my process, but I had to shift from it. I want to be Inky. Like, sidebar, like, Inky Johnson is like my GOAT of speakers. Like, he is the speaker that in many ways saved my life, of like, yo, this brother went through this. He's able to communicate effectively what he's gone through, and his ability to properly communicate it does something to me. Yeah. And it was like, why do I feel like this? Yeah. And it's like, I want to do that. Yeah. And it wasn't until 2021 when I met Inky Johnson for the first time, very first time. I'm talking about starstruck. I'm like, babe, like, Inky's here. He's about to perform. And this is like right after COVID. And I'm like, babe, I want to go up to him and tell him I want to take a picture, but I just don't know. She's like, babe, just ask him to take a picture. If he's who you said he is, like, he's not gonna. Yeah. And Inky was who I thought he was. Like, he was like, come on, bro, like, I got you. I promise you not, Morgan. He said something to me in the audience that day that was a part of my healing process. He said, the only difference between me and every other professional that's on this stage pouring into you is that we have an unwavering belief in our ability of who we are when we look in the mirror. And some of you right now, as you're looking at me on stage and I'm doing what I was brought here to do, when you look in the mirror, you don't believe in yourself the way I believe in myself when I look in the mirror. And I was like, oh, that, it was like, come to Jesus moment. I was like, that's what I needed to hear. 6 months later, Morgan, I'm sharing the stage with Inky Johnson, speaking in his hometown of Atlanta, presenting, and it was one of the moments that God spoke to me. I presented, and Inky Johnson, the person that inspired me to become a speaker and presenter, came to me and said, hey, little bro, I really enjoyed that. And I was like, you did? It was like your dad telling you, like, you did a good job. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those moments, you know? And, I try not to put people on a pedestal, and he wouldn't want me to do that. He's just a really good dude, but it was a moment of confirmation that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And, he's someone who, as a speaker, I study, his ability to effectively communicate and just transition, and, and there's a lot more game to it that, you would understand. But storytelling is when I went from good to great as a communicator. And I've spent the past 3 years since I saw Inky speak for the first time in person, was I said, I'm all rah-rah. I'm all energy. I'm all, but I felt like I was all fluff and there was no substance. And the substance in our ability to connect with audiences comes from our ability to effectively tell stories. Yes. and those stories relate to the audience.
Yes.
You know, or we effectively communicate in a way where no matter what the audience looks like, no matter where the audience comes from, our ability to connect our personal experience to their heart is a skill that I'm working towards getting mastery in. Like, that's my goal as a speaker, is to be in front of a group of people and have the ability to communicate my stories in such a way that leave them feeling moved. And some people may say, well, you're doing that. And I'll say, man, I know there's room to get better at it, you know? I know that was a lot, but, you know, for me, like, that's been my process, and the process that I've taken to just get to this level of communication, you know?
Yeah.
Now, when I speak to speakers, you know, who are in this space, the number one thing that I share with them is less is more. You know, we as athletes, especially former athletes who get into this space, we are conditioned to, like, you know, in your sport, be a guard and then be a small forward, or like be a point guard and then be a shooting guard. And then, like, it's like, well, there's this misconception of the more I can do, the more I can offer, the more I'm valuable, right? But when you focus on that one thing, and you do that one thing better than anyone else, we don't need you to be anything else on the team. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's the approach that I'm now. It's hard. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I only talk about this one thing. But if you said what was my vision as a speaker and a presenter, my vision is to niche down to Jeremiah Brown. This is his lane, and this is what he does better than almost anyone in the space, right? And that's my goal.
You're doing it.
I appreciate that.
You
are, and you are too.
And I'm still a work in progress. And we both are.
We
right?
all are. 100%. We are. 100%.
That is such a great story of, you know. You talked about the beginning, just the people you surround yourself with, like people around you got to inspire you, you know, and it's okay to give people their flowers, and you know what I mean? Like, we're all standing on someone's shoulders that has inspired us, that you've seen, they've said something that has planted a seed that over time waters and grows and whatnot. And that's really powerful. And that's just really good. I think I'm just gonna soak that one in.
I appreciate it. Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where, for me, I'm a student. I'm a lifelong learner. You know, and I know that, you know, God revealed to me that the more I serve others, right? So having the opportunity to get on a call with you, you know, you're someone that I truly admire in this space. You know, like, you've been doing the work. You know, and being able to be in close proximity of someone like you who's been doing the work at the level in which you've been doing it, like, iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? So, and the fact that I have the opportunity to, as you would say, advise or to serve, it's an opportunity that I do not take lightly. You know, you know, so I appreciate you, you know, for just being who you are in this space, what you do for women, and let me just be honest, not just women, right? Like, I know that might be a space and a lane that you've occupied for many years, but there are men like me, you know, who you have also resonate with your story and your experiences, you know, and you know, I'm really excited for us both as we continue to navigate the nuances of the speaking industry, you know. So I appreciate you. That's good. You know, I remember I asked you on one of our calls, I said, you know, because every time I hear you speak, from the first time that we interacted till the couple times we meet virtually and catch up, it's like you can hear the posture of your heart. And when I hear, I'm like, you know, there's days where I'm just like, you know, whatever I'm trying to say when I say that, right? Where it's just like, I'm done caring
caring about taking care of the people.
Yeah.
I'm done being the nice person. I'm done serving. I need to get to the bag. I need to take care of me, right? And you remind me that it's like, just get grounded in gratitude, you know, and just check your heart posture. And because what comes out of here is in here. And in the leadership position that both of us are in this space, it's very important that you know, you take care of your heart and you keep that keep people around you that can pour into you, right? That can be honest with you, that can love you, that in all the different times, and just continue to be of service. And
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really key part to being a good presenter. It's like just also checking what's in your heart, because it will come out.
That's good.
And if it's not real, like people can hear through that, and then now when you're speaking in front of people, now your message won't resonate the same because it has a certain tonality, right? And so it's a reflective process, but certainly that heart posture is an ongoing work for me. You know,
same.
Yeah.
My go-to is God use me.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes as presenters, we can get so caught up in our story and what we want to provide the audience that we forget that our message is our mess that turned into a message, like you said, is for the people we're serving. So I'm constantly like, God, use me. Like, use me. And use me for what you've designed me to be in this space right now, in this moment, you know. Even coming here today, right, like us connecting and, you know, us having this casual conversation, it's like, God, use me. Like, let me say what I need to say in the manner in which you designed me to say it. And because sometimes we can get so caught up in, like, wanting to say the right thing or wanting to be so deep. You know, I struggle with that, you know, especially with social media, you know, sound bites and reels, and it's like, you know, I was like, man, just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just make sure you have someone there to catch you, so that if you say something different, it's captured. But I was so focused on, man, I gotta say this at this mark, so that like I could post it on social media and I could just be deep. And it's like, you ain't gotta be deep. You just gotta be authentically you.
Yes.
And as a result of being that, people come out.